My name is Nora Whitfield. I am 36 years old, and on a warm Saturday morning in June, my younger sister handed me her twin daughters at the Savannah airport, told me she'd be back in 2 minutes, and got on a plane to the Caribbean. For the next 9 months, the only proof I had that she was alive was a photograph of her bare feet in white sand. But here's the part I need you to hear first, because it's the part that changes everything. Inside the gray duffel bag she left sitting at my feet, there was a folder. And the papers inside that folder were dated 3 weeks before that morning. 3 weeks. My sister didn't snap, she didn't panic, she didn't have a breakdown at a ticket counter. She planned it, down to the notary stamp. And when she finally came back, tanned, engaged, smiling like the cover of a travel brochure, what she demanded from me on my own front porch is the part of this story that nobody ever believes. If you're new here, this is where quiet women finally tell the stories they never got to tell out loud. If stories about family, betrayal, and finding your backbone speak to you, drop a comment with where you're listening from, and make sure you're subscribed, because you're going to want to hear how this one ends. Now, let me take you back to that Saturday. It was June, and Savannah was already thick with heat by 8 in the morning. My sister Chelsea had called me 2 days earlier, sweeter than she'd been in months. "Nora, come see us off at the airport. The girls want to hug you goodbye. And I can't manage 2 6-year-olds and 4 bags by myself, you know that. I should tell you now. When Chelsea gets sweet, it's because she needs something. I knew that. I'd known it my whole life. I went anyway, because the twins were going to be gone for 2 weeks, and I don't turn down hugs from those girls. Nobody with a working heart could. Wren and Hazel, 6 years old. Wren is the older one by 11 minutes and never lets anyone forget it. Shez the talker, the negotiator, the one who asks the waiter questions like Shez paying the bill. Hazel is quieter. She watches. She draws on everything. Receipts, napkins. Her own arms. That morning they were wearing matching lime green sneakers that Wren had picked out. Because Wren picks everything. And Hazel lets her. Because that's their arrangement with the world. Chelsea was in white linen, sunglasses pushed up into her hair, looking like a woman in an ad for a resort. She'd been looking like that a lot in the year since, well, it'll get to Marcus. She had 4 suitcases, a CARRY on, and the girl's little gray duffel, the one with the broken zipper pull that I'd been meaning to fix. We got everything checked in. We stood in that bright, loud terminal, and I crouched down and hugged both girls and told them to send me pictures of every weird bird they saw. And then Chelsea looked at her phone, made a small annoyed sound, and said the sentence I will hear for the rest of my life. "Ugh, my boarding pass won't scan. Watch them for 2 minutes. I have to go fix this at the desk." 2 minutes? She kissed the top of Wren's head. She did not kiss Hazel. I noticed it, the way you notice a dropped stitch. And I said nothing. And then she walked toward the counter, past the counter, and into the security line, rolling her carry-on behind her, sunglasses coming down over her eyes like a curtain closing. I stood there holding 2 small hands and 1 gray duffel bag, telling myself she'd realized she needed to be on the other side of security for some airline reason I didn't understand. 8 minutes went by. Wren asked if they were going to miss the plane. 10 minutes. I called Chelsea. It rang once and went to voicemail. 12 minutes. I called again. Straight to voicemail this time. She'd turned it off. And then, at 8:03 a.m., my phone chimed. 1 text. I still have it. I've read it maybe 1,000 times, and it still lands like cold water. Don't be dramatic. You should be raising them anyway. Everyone knows you're the one who always wanted kids. Everything they need is in the gray bag. Don't call Mom. She already knows. And then, nothing. No read receipts. No profile picture. My sister had boarded a plane to St. Bartel, a little island I had to look up on a map, with her boyfriend, and she had left her 6-year-old daughters standing in an airport terminal holding their aunt's hands. Hazel tugged my sleeve. She didn't ask where her mother went. "That's the detail I want you to hold on to," Wren asked. Wren asked 40 times that day. Hazel just looked up at me with those careful eyes, like she was checking my face for the answer, and then she looked at the floor. 6 years old, and some part of her had already done the math. I want to pause here and tell you who I am, because it matters to everything that comes after. I teach art at an elementary school on the south side of Savannah. 12 years now, kindergarten through 5th grade, 6 classes a day, glitter in my hair from September to June. I lived in a little carriage house I rented behind a big old home that belongs to Miss Odette, a retired paralegal in her 70s who grows tomatoes and doesn't miss a thing. 1 bedroom, a hot plate of a kitchen, and a savings account I'd been feeding for 9 years. $61,000, a down payment, a house of my own by 40. That was the plan. That was the whole plan. I am not married. I was with a good man named Curtis for 6 years, and when he took a job in Phoenix, I stayed, because my school was here and my mother was here and Chelsea's girls were here. Everyone called it my choice like it was a small thing. And Chelsea is 3 years younger than me, and she has been the main character of our family since the day she was born. I don't say that with bitterness anymore. It cost me a lot of years to say it without bitterness. Our dad left when I was 9, and our mother, Linda, raised us on a bookkeeper's salary and a firm belief that Chelsea was destined for something. Chelsea sparkles, Mom used to say, and it was true. She did. She sparkled through school, through pageants, through 3 engagement rings before 25. I did homework at the kitchen table. Chelsea took the light, that was the arrangement, and the house ran smoothly as long as nobody questioned it. Here's the thing, though. Chelsea also married the best man I've ever known. Marcus Reyes was an electrician with steady hands and a laugh you could hear across a parking lot, and for 8 years he was the ballast in my sister's boat. He adored her. He adored those girls. 2 years before that morning at the airport, Marcus was up on a ladder changing a porch light, his own porch light, at his own house, when an aneurysm took him before he reached the ground. He was 34. I am not going to stand here and tell you my sister felt nothing. I watched her at that funeral, and what I saw was real. But grief does different things to different people. It cracked me open toward the girls. It cracked Chelsea open toward the mirror. Within a year, she was doing live streams about manifestation and choosing abundance, selling essential oil bundles, filming herself crying in good lighting. And then came Gideon Voss. I want you to picture a man who is 45 and dresses like a yacht. Linen everything, a watch you're supposed to notice. He ran something called wealth activation retreats on islands I'd never heard of, for people who paid 4 figures to hear him say the word frequency. He met my sister at a rooftop mixer in Atlanta, and within 2 months she was flying places with him and posting captions like "finally around people who match my energy." The girls started spending weekends with me, then whole weeks, the year before the airport. Chelsea dropped them off for a long weekend and came back 9 days later. No apology, mid-sentence about Bali. She borrowed $3,500 from me for a business certification that never materialized. When I brought it up, gently, at Sunday dinner, my mother set down her fork and said, "Nora, your sister is grieving." That word did a lot of heavy lifting in our family. It paid Chelsea's bills, it excused her absences, it handed me 2 little girls every time it was convenient and took them back every time it wasn't. So no, when my sister walked into that security line and didn't look back, some part of me was shocked, and some older, tired part of me was not shocked at all. But I wanted to be honest with you about what I believed that first day. Because it matters. I believed she'd be back in 2 weeks. I believed this was Chelsea being Chelsea. Thoughtless, theatrical, allergic to asking directly for anything. I told myself, it's 2 weeks. You can do 2 weeks. I took the girls home. I made grilled cheese. I put them to sleep in my bed and lay on the couch staring at the ceiling fan. And at midnight, I finally unzipped the gray duffel to find their pajamas. That's when the 2-week story died. The pajamas were on top, folded. Under the pajamas were more clothes than any 2-week trip needs. Fall clothes, sweaters, the next shoe size up, tags still on. Under the clothes was a large yellow envelope, and inside that envelope, my sister had packed the following, and I want you to hear the whole list. 2 birth certificates, 2 social security cards, 2 immunization records, the girl's pediatrician's name and number, written on an index card, a page of notes in Chelsea's loopy handwriting. Ren, left ear gets infections, don't let her swim without plugs. Hazel, no red dye, it makes her wild. They both lie about brushing teeth. A smaller envelope with $200 in 20s, labeled, and I quote, "first month." And underneath all of it, a document, 3 pages, stapled, signed, and notarized. Temporary delegation of parental authority, my name typed in as the caregiver. Chelsea's signature at the bottom, swooping and confident. And next to the notary's seal, a date. May 21st, she left on June 14th, That paper was signed and stamped 24 days before she asked me to come to the airport to help with the bags. While I was buying the girls popsicles that month, while she was hugging me at Sunday dinner, my sister was standing in front of a notary, arranging the transfer of her children like a woman canceling a gym membership. I sat on my kitchen floor at 1 a.m. with those papers spread around me, and I didn't cry. That surprised me. I felt something colder than crying. Because a meltdown, an SOS, a panicked voicemail from an island, I could have forgiven all of that. I had forgiven versions of that for 30 years. But this was a plan, a quiet, careful, notarized plan. And the last line of her note, "Don't call Mom," she already knows, meant the two women closest to me in the world had discussed my future at some kitchen table and decided not to invite me. I did call my mother, obviously 7 the next morning, and my mother sighed like I was the inconvenience, and said, "Nora, don't turn this into a thing. Chelsea needs time to heal. It's just for the summer. Honestly, it makes sense. You're alone anyway, and the girls settle so well with you. You're alone anyway. Write that one down. We'll come back to it." So it became the summer. And listen, I need to be truthful about this part, because this story doesn't work if I pretend to be a saint. I loved those girls with my whole chest. But I was not fine. My carriage house had 1 bedroom. I moved to the pull-out couch. It has a bar that finds your spine like a heat-seeking missile, and every morning I woke up bent like a question mark. I taught 6 classes a day, then did pickup, dinner, baths, tuck-in, laundry, and lunches. My grocery bill tripled. Ren needed a dentist. Hazel needed new glasses after sitting on hers. And then, 3 weeks later, a second pair. Because that's how 6-year-olds work. And the questions, God, the questions. Every night for the first month, Ren asked at bedtime, in her business voice, "Is Mommy coming Sunday?" Because Sunday felt believable to her. And every Sunday night she'd revise. "Next Sunday, probably." Hazel never asked. Hazel started drawing the same picture over and over. A little house with 2 windows and no door. And if you don't think a 6-year-old drawing houses with no doors will take you apart, I hope you never learn otherwise. Meanwhile, my sister was posting. She was posting. Shed blocked my number but not, apparently, remembered that half of Savannah follows her. A friend from work showed me. There was Chelsea on a catamaran in a white swimsuit, caption, "Healing isn't selfish." Chelsea holding a coconut, caption, "You can't pour from an empty cup." Chelsea and Gideon toasting at sunset, caption, and I want you to appreciate this one, "Protect your peace from people who need you small." 41 days after she left her daughters in an airport, she posted a photograph of her bare feet in the sand with the caption, "Finally breathing." I didn't comment. I want credit for that, actually. 36 years of being the calm one has to be worth something. I didn't comment, I didn't subtweet, I didn't call the cousins, but that was the night something in me changed shifts, because I finally understood the assignment my family had given me. I was the storage unit, Chelsea got the sky, and I got the boxes. And everyone, my mother, my aunts, the whole quiet machinery of our family, had signed off on it without a single phone call to ask how I was the next morning. I knocked on Miss Odette's door. I mentioned Miss Odette, my landlady, 73, retired paralegal, 30 years in a family law office, gardens in a sun hat, sees everything. She'd been watching me haul 2 car seats in and out for weeks. She poured me sweet tea and let me get through the whole story, and when I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said the sentence that changed the next year of my life. "Baby, you don't have a family problem. You have a legal problem wearing a family costume." She laid it out for me like a recipe. Fact 1, I had 2 children in my home with no legal standing beyond a temporary delegation paper, which, in Georgia, expires. If either girl broke an arm, the hospital could refuse me. The school district could question their enrollment. Fact 2, if Chelsea reappeared in 6 months and pointed at me, the word for what ID have was nothing. Fact 3, and she looked at me over her glasses when she said it, "Whatever her plan is, honey, she made it with paperwork. So you'd better answer with paperwork." So I became a documented woman. Everything went in a binder, the notarized delegation with its damning date, screenshots of the 8:03 a.m., text of every unanswered call, a daily log, who fed them, who took them to the doctor, who signed the school forms. Miss Odette taught me a phrase I want every woman listening to learn: contemporaneous records. Judges believe boring people, baby, be boring on paper. And in August, with a legal aid attorney named Renata Cole, a calm woman with a handshake like a vault door, I filed a petition for temporary guardianship of Ren and Hazel Reyes. Notice was served to Chelsea's last known addresses and by publication, because my sister's location was, quote, unknown. Unknown, her location was a beach. Everyone with a phone knew her location, but she never responded to the court. And in September, a judge granted me temporary guardianship. It didn't feel like victory, it felt like putting on a seatbelt. And it's a good thing I did. Because October is when I found the money. It started with a form at the pediatrician's office. Insurance verification. Renata was helping me sort out the girl's coverage, and she frowned at her screen and asked me a question I didn't understand. Where are the survivor benefits going? Here's what I learned that afternoon, sitting in a chair that suddenly felt very far from the floor. When Marcus died, his daughters became entitled to monthly survivor benefits, money the government pays to children who lose a parent. For Ren and Hazel, it came to a little over $1,100 a month. Combined, both girls, every month since he passed. That money follows the children. It exists to feed them, clothe them, keep a roof over them. The children had been sleeping in my one-bedroom carriage house for 4 months. Their benefits were being deposited into their mother's checking account, and their mother was on an island, posting coconuts. I want to be careful and honest here. I don't know what every dollar bought, and I've stopped torturing myself with guesses. What I know is what the records eventually showed. The deposits kept landing month after month, and not one dime of it ever found its way to the girls' actual lives. Their lives were funded by an elementary school art teacher's salary and a down payment fund that was quietly bleeding out. By October, my $61,000 was $52,000. By Christmas, it was $46,000. Renata reported the situation to the benefits office, and we started the slow, unglamorous process of having me made the girls' representative payee, the legal receiver of their money, since they were legally in my care. Government paperwork moves like a glacier, but it moves. And here is a sentence you should remember for later, because Chelsea certainly should have. Agencies do not get embarrassed, and agencies do not get tired. When they establish that money went where it shouldn't have, they don't argue about it on social media. They send a letter with a number inside. And they always send it eventually. Now let me tell you about the winter, because the winter is when 2 things happened at once. The girls got better, and the story got darker. The girls first, somewhere around November. The couch became ours instead of mine. We did homework on it, movie night on it, and I stopped noticing the bar in my back, which either means I adjusted or my spine surrendered, and honestly, either way. Ren stopped asking about Sundays. She started asking different questions. Can I do art club? Can Hazel and me have a reading tent? Aunt Nora, do you know how to braid like actually? Kid questions. Questions about a life, not about a weight. And Hazel, my quiet Hazel, came home from school in early December with a drawing. Same little house she always drew, 2 windows, but this one had a door. And standing next to the house, a tall stick figure with brown scribble hair and a paintbrush in her hand. Her teacher told me Shed titled it at the top, in that wobbly 6-year-old spelling. My house, I laminated it, don't judge me. I work at an elementary school. We laminate our feelings. School pictures came back in January. Ren mid-laugh with a gap where a tooth used to be. Hazel's glasses crooked because they were always crooked, and I taped them to my refrigerator. And my little rented kitchen quietly became the headquarters of a family. Nobody announced it, it just happened, the way real things happen, on a Tuesday over spaghetti. Now, the darker thing, in February, a woman named Priya Raman sent me a message. Polite, careful, the message of someone who has drafted it several times. She had found me because I was listed as the contact on the girls' school fundraiser page. My name, my sister's last name, easy math. She wrote, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm trying to reach Chelsea Reyes. I paid her a deposit for the Little Stars showcase last spring, and I've never received a refund. There are several of us, please, if you have any way to contact her. The Little Stars showcase? I had never heard those 3 words in my life. It took me 2 phone calls and 1 very long evening to learn what half the moms in 2 counties apparently already knew. The spring before she left, the same spring she was standing in front of a notary, my sister had been selling something. A children's talent showcase, a pageant experience, professional photos, a runway, exposure to agencies. Deposits of $800 to $2,300, collected by transfer app from at least 11 families. There was a venue that had never been booked. There was a photographer who'd never been called. There was a date that came and went while my sister was, and I cannot say this part without sitting down, already on the island. 11 families, some of them had been messaging her for months. And in May, the notary month, 2 of those mothers had told Chelsea directly that they were going to report her. Do you see it now? Because I finally did. Sitting at my kitchen table with Prius messages in front of me and the refrigerator humming behind me. My sister didn't fly to the Caribbean to heal. My sister flew to the Caribbean because the ground here was getting hot. The trip wasn't a breakdown, it was an exit. And the girls? I have to say this part slowly. The girls weren't left behind carelessly. They were part of the exit plan. You can't sip cocktails on Gideon's frequency retreats with 2 6-year-olds. But you also can't just abandon them. That word has legal teeth. So she manufactured a soft landing, a notarized paper, a packed duffel, a sister with a working heart, and no children of her own. You're alone anyway. I didn't post any of it. I want you to know I thought about it. There is a version of this story where I upload every screenshot and burn her down in front of the whole town, and some nights I wrote those posts in my head at 2 in the morning. But Miss Odette's voice was louder. Judges believe boring people, so I did the boring thing. I connected Priya and the other families with each other, gave them the official channels, added every document to my binder, and kept making spaghetti on Tuesdays. Meanwhile, my sister's version of events was doing a world tour, because Chelsea, blocked number and all, was narrating the whole thing from her beach. To her followers, she was on a healing journey. To the cousins, through my mother, the story was even neater, Nora offered. Did you hear that? I offered. According to the family broadcast system, I had generously volunteered for an extended anti-adventure, and Chelsea was simply taking much-needed time after her loss. When I missed Thanksgiving because Hazel had a fever, one of my aunts texted me, and I promise this is real. Well, you wanted this. At Christmas, my mother came by with presents for the girls, stayed 40 minutes, and on her way out the door, looked around my carriage house, at the bunk bed ID wedged into the bedroom, at the drawings taped to every wall, and said, "See? You're thriving. This is the best thing that ever happened to you." The best thing that ever happened to me was $10,000 out of my savings and 2 children crying for a mother who posted coconuts. But in my mother's story, Chelsea sparkled, and I absorbed. That was the physics of our family. It had never once occurred to anyone that the physics could change. And then, in March, 271 days after the airport, the physics knocked on my door. It was a Saturday morning. The girls were at the kitchen table gluing googly eyes onto rocks, because that's what we did on Saturdays now, and I opened the door with paint on my hands, and there she was. My sister, tanned deep gold, hair lighter, white sundress, and a diamond on her left hand the size of a molar. Behind her at the curb, a rented convertible, engine running, and in her voice, I need you to hear this, there was no apology anywhere. There wasn't even the shape where an apology used to be. "Hey! Oh my God, you look tired." "Okay, don't make this weird." "I'm back," Gideon proposed. "We're doing the wedding at his family's place in Charleston in May. I need the girls. There's a fitting Tuesday. Flower girls, matching ivory, it's going to be stunning. And Nora," and here she leaned in, lowered her voice, went sisterly. "I know you've been getting their money. Well, need to square that up. That's their money. It goes with them. 9 months, not, how are they not? Did Hazel's eyes get worse? Did Ren's ear act up? Do they sleep okay? Do they hate me? Do they ask about me?" Not one question with a child inside it. She had come for the accessories. The wedding needed flower girls, the image needed a mother, and the mother needed the checks. I'm going to tell you exactly what I felt in that doorway, because I've thought about it many times since. I expected to feel rage, and rage was there, but the loudest thing I felt was calm. A strange, wide, quiet calm. Like the moment the fever breaks. Because for 9 months, some little sister part of me had still been waiting for Chelsea to come home and become someone else. And there on my porch, in her ivory plans and her borrowed convertible, she had finally, completely, shown me the whole shape of her. There was nothing left to wait for. And a woman who has nothing left to wait for is the most dangerous woman alive. Behind me, I heard a chair scrape. Ren had come to the doorway. She looked at her mother for a long moment. This woman she had revised Sundays for, And then she said, in her small business voice, "We're making rock pets. You can't come in unless Aunt Nora says." Unless Aunt Nora says. 9 months of Tuesdays had built that sentence, and I will hear it proudly until I die. I told Chelsea the girls weren't going anywhere that morning, that I had guardianship, and that anything she wanted to discuss could go through the court that granted it. And my sister's face did something I'd never seen it do in 33 years. It flickered, the sparkle stuttered, just for a second, and underneath it was something cold and calculating, and then the smile snapped back on like a light, and she said, "Wow. Okay, you've gotten weird about this. My lawyer will fix it." And she click-clacked back to the convertible and posted, that same afternoon, a photo of herself gazing at the ocean. Caption, "On my way back to my babies." Some people tried to take advantage of my grief. The truth always comes out, 1,100 likes. 4 of my cousins in the comments with heart emojis. And me, in my kitchen, gluing a googly eye onto a rock with a 6-year-old, watching myself get recast as the villain in real time. Her lawyer's letter arrived 9 days later, and I'll give her this. It was a beautiful letter. Thick paper. It demanded the immediate return of the minor children to their fit and loving mother, characterized my guardianship as something obtained through misrepresentation during a period of the mother's documented bereavement, and, my favorite part, demanded an accounting and reimbursement of the children's benefit funds that had been diverted to me. Diverted to me. The woman buying the shoes and the glasses and the eardrops. I drove that letter straight to Renata Cole, and Renata read it twice, set it down, and smiled the way I imagine a chess player smiles when the opponent moves exactly the piece she was hoping they'd move. "She's demanding a hearing," Renata said. "Wonderful, let's give her one. And here I have to tell you about the choice, because there was a choice, and I want you to know I made it with my eyes open." The showcase families, Priya and the others, their complaints were moving through official channels. My binder could have been a bomb. I could have gone scorched earth in public, matched Chelsea post for post, dragged the whole Ivory wedding into the mud. Renata asked me straight, "What do you want out of this? Punishment or the girls?" And I thought about Hazel's house with the door on it, and I said, "The girls. Permanently, everything else can take its natural course." Remember that phrase, natural course, because nature, it turns out, is very reliable. The hearing was on a Tuesday in April, in a courtroom with bad fluorescent lighting and a judge named Okafor who had clearly seen every kind of family a family can fail to be. Chelsea arrived in dove gray, with Gideon's lawyer and a face arranged for the occasion. Grieving widow, healing mother, wronged. She testified that she'd been overwhelmed by loss, that the arrangement was always understood to be temporary, that I had grown attached. She said it like a diagnosis, and blocked her attempts to reconnect. And then it was our turn, and Renata opened the boring binder, and boring paper started talking. The delegation of parental authority, notarized May 21st, 24 days before the airport, while she was telling the family nothing, and me even less. The 8:03 a.m. text, blown up on a poster board. "You should be raising them anyway." Phone records, not one call from Chelsea's number to mine, to the school, or to the pediatrician in 270-1 days. The school's records, every form, every conference, every emergency contact. Me. The pediatrician's records. 11 visits me. 11 times me. And then the benefits file. The girl's survivor money, deposited month after month into the account of a woman whose own posts, which Renata printed, time-stamped, and geotagged, placed her on a beach in another country the entire time. Finally breathing, entered into evidence, I watched the judge read that caption. I watched her look up at my sister over her glasses, and I saw 30 years of my family's physics quietly stop working. Chelsea's lawyer objected to things. It didn't matter. That's the beauty I never understood until that room. Sparkle doesn't survive paperwork. Charisma can beat you in a kitchen. In a comment section at a Thanksgiving table. It cannot beat a laminated timeline. Judge Okafor didn't rule for a week, and in that week, nature took its course, right on schedule. The benefits office, which does not get embarrassed and does not get tired, completed its review and issued its finding. Months of funds paid on behalf of children not in the recipient's care. A repayment demand with a number inside it, a number with a comma. And 2 counties over, the Showcase family's complaints had matured into a formal fraud investigation, and an investigator with a flat, patient voice started calling people who'd transferred deposits. Gideon, I'm told, learned about the investigation on a Thursday. The wedding, Ivory, Charleston, flower girls in matching dresses, was postponed by Friday. The ring, I'm told, had to go back. I'm told he said something about protecting his brand. Frequency indeed, so by the time the ruling came, my sister's position had changed considerably. And this is where Chelsea did the single most Chelsea thing of her entire life. With the repayment demand on her table, and investigators calling her old clients, she called Renata's office, not to fight, not to apologize, to negotiate. She would consent to permanent guardianship, she said, if we would handle the benefits confusion quietly, meaning, take the kids, take the paperwork, just don't feed the fire. We didn't have to promise her anything, and Renata made sure we legally didn't. The judge granted me permanent guardianship of Ren and Hazel. Findings on the record: abandonment, 9 months, no contact, no support. The benefits repayment stayed exactly where it belonged, on Chelsea's table, on a payment plan that will keep sending her envelopes for years, each one a small monthly memo from reality. The fraud case settled the way those cases do when the evidence is all screenshots and bank transfers. Restitution to the 11 families avoided worse. She sold the content trailer shed bought, yes, there was a content trailer, to make the first payments. And my mother, I want to finish her thread honestly, because life isn't a movie. There was no thunderclap where Linda Whitfield saw the light, but there was a Tuesday, about a month after the ruling, when she came for dinner and Renata's document copies were still on my counter, and I didn't hide them. She read the May 21st date. She read "You're alone anyway," because yes, that text was in there too. Chelsea had sent her a version of it. My mother put the papers down, and she looked older than I'd ever let myself see her, and she said quietly, "She let me believe it was your idea. It's not an apology, I've decided it's a beginning. She comes on Tuesdays now. She's teaching Ren to play gin rummy, and Ren cheats, and my mother, God bless her, lets her win exactly half the time and calls it banking her confidence. As for Chelsea, there's a supervised visitation order she's used twice. Twice in over a year, both times she took photos. The second time, when the hour was up, Hazel waved goodbye and then asked me, on the way to the car, if we could still make Tuesday spaghetti even though it was Wednesday. And that was the whole review, and it was the correct one. The door I's and T's sealed. I keep it exactly as open as a door can safely be. When the girls are older, they'll decide what to do about their mother, and whatever they decide, they'll decide it standing on solid ground. Solid ground is the entire inheritance I have to give, and I intend to give them acres of it. Here's where the story lands, so let me land it. We bought a house, a small one. Blue shutters, a crooked porch, a yard Miss Odette supervises like a foreman 3 streets from her tomatoes. The down payment fund survived, bruised but breathing. And the girls' benefit money does what it was always meant to do. And every statement is in a binder, because I am now and forever a documented woman. There's a door frame in the hallway with pencil marks on it, W and H, climbing an inch at a time, and nobody is ever allowed to paint over that door frame. It's in the family constitution. Ren wrote a family constitution. It's mostly about dessert, and the $200, the envelope marked first month that Chelsea packed in the gray duffel, the money that was supposed to make abandoning her children feel like a handoff. I never spent it. It sat in the binder for a year like a splinter, and this spring Ren found it and asked what it was, and I said, "It's money your mom left for you." And Ren, 11 minutes older, thought it over and said, "Then we get to pick." They picked paint, ocean colors, and the 3 of us spent a whole Saturday painting a mural across their bedroom wall. Waves, an island, 2 little stick figure girls in a boat, and a lighthouse. Hazel painted the lighthouse, she put a door on it. So my sister got the islands, and the girls and I, we painted our own. Ours doesn't require a flight or an audience or anyone's approval. Ours has spaghetti. On Tuesdays, I spent 36 years believing my job in this family was to absorb, to be the quiet one, the steady one, the one who's alone anyway. It took 1 gray duffel bag, 2 6-year-olds, and a notary stamp dated 3 weeks early to teach me the truth. Being the responsible one is only a curse when you're responsible for the wrong people. Pointed at the right people, And it's a superpower. Love that performs will always find a beach and a camera. Love that stays finds a kitchen table, a homework folder, a nightlight, and it shows up on a Tuesday, and then it shows up on every Tuesday after that. That's my story 1. 2 minutes that lasted 9 months, 2 girls gluing googly eyes onto rocks, and a house with a door that Hazel drew before it ever existed. If this story reminded you of someone who shows up quietly, for the kids, for the family, for you, send it to them and tell them you see them. Drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from tonight and what your Tuesday tradition is. And if you believe the quiet ones deserve to have their stories told, hit subscribe because there are more stories where this one came from. And I'll see you in the next one.